online broadcast network, AfterBuzz TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads from over 200 countries and your #1 source in after-show entertainment. AfterBuzz TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Hey! Fire. Oh, shoot. I love it. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, how are you doing this evening? I am so excited. Hell's Kitchen is back once again. It is now season 13. It's not a game. I've been watching since season 1. I'm so excited. They keep pushing it. They keep going. They keep bringing new crazy people. Gordon Ramsay is a beast. I love it. So we're going to start off, as we always do, with the beginning. And just to jump right in, they always have a special way that they kind of introduce the contestants. And so the last couple of seasons, they started off, they have them in a bus and they have them basically, you know, talking with each other. And some of them are talking smack and trying to say that they're going to be the best one or they're the best one or what have you. And they basically, you know, have them in the bus. Starts off, they take them to a theater here in Los Angeles, get into this theater, and you see like a couple of rows. And then the person that's working theater tells them that they're going to basically, you know, watch a little film kind of about Hell's Kitchen. And so they start watching the film. Gordon Ramsay pops up and he's like, hey, how you guys doing? They get all excited. And then it basically, you know, starts showing them individually as contestants and kind of where they're from and what they're about, and kind of gives little intros about them. And it's really cool. And so all of a sudden, Gordon Ramsay, he basically tells them, he's like, all right, well, you guys hang tight, and, you know, you guys are going to cook, you know, later, you know, back at the kitchen or what have you. And then of course, all of a sudden, that's not what's going to happen, you know. And, you know, because I'm an avid watcher of this, I knew something was up. The backdrop, which is all dark, drops, and then there's a huge audience behind there, and they're all clapping and cheering, and they're basically, of course, their challenge starts right there. So, you know, I think it was cool the way they did it, of course, like I said, because I watched the show, I knew it was coming, but that's just because I have inside knowledge, and that's how I work. I do want to give a shout out to my engineer, JTE. What's up, JTE? You back there?
What's going on, buddy?
Yeah. I'm gonna probably divert to him, you know, at certain times when I have questions for him, you know, just to kind of help me out. But as it keeps going, it's time for them to cook their signature dish, which is something that Gordon Ramsay does every single season. And he has them kind of cook what they're known for. And it's funny because you think that these are cooks, these are chefs. Some of these are executive chefs. Some of them are you know, personal chefs. They come from all different kind of culinary backgrounds. Some of them are students. But it's interesting because some of these signature dishes, or just look horrible. And you're like, that's supposed to be your best, and it looks bad. So we're gonna get into it. They starts off, they're cooking their signature dishes. They have them shift over to a neighboring kitchen where they can cook their dishes. And there's a guy, starts off, of course, somebody's always gonna start off doing something bad. So this guy named JP, he gives them 45 minutes to cook their signature dish. This guy is done in like 15 minutes. And it's like, you know, he's like, who is this? Whose dish is this? He's like, oh, it's mine. And it just looks really like elementary. Like it looks like it's back from the 80s. And so, of course, he's like, you know, you let this sit there, it's going to get cold. So he basically has him redo it. He redoes it. But I know in the future, and we're going to get into that, it's not going to be very good. So, anyway, he starts off, everyone comes down, it's a huge crowd and they're all cheering. And so he calls up, you know, normally what he does is he separates the men and the women. The women are usually the red team, the men are the blue team. So he separated them and had called up a man and a woman, both at the same time. And what he did was he scored their dish. So he would taste their dish and he would then give them a 1 to 5 rating. So the first up, we have Deneen and JR. So Deneen, she says, she gets up there and she says, this is an inside out chicken Parmesan. I've never heard of that. JT, have you heard of an inside out chicken parmesan?
No, I don't. That sounds like something if you dropped on the floor.
Right. Right, because hence the term inside out. That's why, because it was dropped. And it kind of looked like it was dropped on the floor. But according to Gordon, he said it was all right. He gave it a 3, which is not bad. JR made a rockfish taco, which he also gave a 3. He pulls out 2 more. He has a girl named Sade who makes a mushroom and pea risotto, which he gives a 2. It looks kind of weird. It looked like baby food, which I'm not a fan of. When I was a baby, I liked it, but not as an adult. So I had a feeling that he wouldn't like it either. He gave it a 2. And then our boy, JP, he makes a Boston bake haddock. That's what he had made. A haddock is a type of fish, I believe. And Gordon Ramsay, of course, spits it out. Like, it's nasty. Gives it a 1. Almost was going to send him home. He was like, I kind of want to send you home. Because like I said before, he made it in like 15 minutes. So he makes it again, and it was just all bad. We have a girl named Ashley who comes up, makes a deconstructed taco. He gives her a 3. Then this guy, Frank, who looks just like Guidoville. I think he's from Philly. It's funny. He just, got the hair slicked back like the total, Guido dude. He makes a filet mignon with bone marrow, but he leaves the bone marrow in the bone. So it's like standing up, and it looks like the little stone hinges on Easter Island. It looked really weird. And so he spits it out again. Of course, he gives him a 1, all bad. A girl named Natasha gets up, hickory rub watermelon. Now that was interesting. Normally, when you make a dish and it's a signature dish, you have some type of protein. So some type of meat or some type of protein added to it. She made watermelon. Now I'm not a chef. I'm not a cook. I love to eat, and that's part of what qualifies me for do the show. But I think I could make a hickory rub watermelon, and I'm not good at cooking. So that was her signature dish. Of course, he gave it a low score. This guy named Fernando, he made a pan-seared pigeon, which actually got the highest score so far, which is like a 4, which is really interesting. A girl named Rogue made a filet. Then with Sterling, made some shrimp and grits. And we had Kaylin, who made scallops, and then this guy named Santos made a skate wing. So after he added up all of the scores, it basically, the women got 24, the men got 23. So they won by 1 point. It was crazy. So, of course, the women are cheering, the men are upset. And as you know, those of you that watch Hell's Kitchen, whenever a team wins, they get a nice prize. They usually get to go somewhere in LA really nice, either eat somewhere nice or really go on a fantastic trip. Whereas the men, or whoever loses, excuse me, in this case, it was the men, they have to do some kind of punishment, which in this time, it was actually building the dorms. So they had to actually go and pick up the furniture. It was delivered, and had to set up all the beds, make the beds, put everything up basically that's in the dorms where they stay. The women, for their treat, got to go to the Bel Air Hotel here in Los Angeles to eat with Wolfgang Puck. That's dope. I would love to eat with I would love to just eat Wolfgang Puck's food because it's amazing. So they actually got to not only eat there at the Bel Air Hotel, but they got to sit with him and meet with him. And it was really cool. It was really cool. It's funny because as they were doing their kind of challenge, so to speak, or their punishment, I should say, our boy JR, he's one of the cooks, really laid back dude. He decides that he's going to take a break. He decides he's just going to kind of sit there, and he's like, yeah, I'm just going to sit on the couch and not really do anything right now. And all the men are just hustling, and they're, getting everything they need to do together, trying to build the beds. One of the guys is carrying up mattresses back and forth, going crazy. And this guy's just chilling. So of course, that's not going to fly. He basically ends up, the men end up calling him out and saying, what are you doing? You need to get to work, so he has to get back to work. The women come back, and it's interesting too. And in previous seasons, the women have always, I'll say in the last couple of seasons, the women have dominated the men, hands down. They've just been really good. They've won most of the challenges. I remember it was the season before last. The women won almost every challenge. The men probably won 2 challenges the whole time. So it was interesting, to see that. And when the women came back, they took the books that they give them to study the dishes that are made that they're required to study. They were studying the books. What are the men doing? go to sleep. So I think that's a forecast of what's coming up, which we see later on. It goes into the next day, and it starts with dinner service. And of course, you have a new maitre d', and his name is Brenio. And I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. I think it's Brenio. Sometimes I can't read my writing, but don't judge me. And so he's like new. He takes JP's job, which is JP has been those of you that watch the show has been the maitre d' for a number of years, a number of seasons. And so basically they start cooking. Of course, it all starts off the people file in to go, and they're gonna sit down and eat. And so Chef Ramsay gives them the pep talk and says, okay, you're going to cook and you're going to get it down and it's going to be amazing, all of this stuff. So they're all hyped. They get to go. Well, of course, it's never going to go right, especially the first service. And so we have a gentleman by the name of Aaron, who first thing he does, he messes up the risotto. Now, I'll just say it like this. I've been watching Hell's Kitchen since season 1. So this is the 13th season. I've watched every season. And for those of you that watch the show, you know that there are certain things that Gordon Ramsay always pretty much is a staple in what he uses in his menu in Hell's Kitchen. And that is, one of them is risotto. Another one is beef Wellington. And another one is scallops. Those 3 things are literally, he has everyone cook all the time. Now, if I was a chef that was going to compete in Hell's Kitchen, I would make sure that before I got there, that I knew how to cook risotto, that I knew how to cook scallops, and I knew how to cook beef Wellington. I'm just saying, because those, you're going to be cooking that. You're going to be cooking that. So when you get up there and you can't cook risotto, come on, son. Really. So he can't, this guy Aaron, he's cooking the risotto and it's all messed up. And so of course he gets sent back, and I love how everyone waits, they send it up, and it's almost like they praying, because they send it up to him, and of course he checks it, he tastes it, he looks at it, and then if he likes it, then he says service please, and then basically everybody, they're happy because they know that it passed. But of course when he has a problem with it, he brings it back, and then he basically starts yelling at everybody, not just the person that cooked it, and then he starts throwing food around and all that kind of stuff. So of course Aaron messes up risotto. That's the first mistake. Latasha, who was on the other team, the red team, she actually had good risotto. So of course that means that in theory that the women are ahead in that regard. The blue team as a whole basically starts messing up just all over the place. They're throwing up bad risotto left and right. And then you have Janae, who basically is cooking scallops, and one order of scallops is 5. And so they had 2 orders of scallops. So 2 times 5 is what, ladies and gentlemen? It's 10, right? So she sends up 8. So of course it's not enough. And he asked her if she knew what 2 times 5 was. And I don't know if it was editing, but it seemed like it took her a long time to, kind of say what that was. Just saying. The red team starts doing well. They start pumping it out. They start doing good. The men, on the other hand, the blue team, they're doing so bad that all of a sudden they all get kicked out of the kitchen. Not like 1, not like 2, but like every single cook on the blue team gets kicked out of the kitchen. So it was really bad. It was really, really bad. The red team, on the other hand, they end up doing well. And they end up winning, of course. They finish service. So because the men got cooked out, they obviously won by default. And so what happens is, of course, he has a deliberation of what to do. And so he tells the guys, or the blue team, that they need to pick 1 or 2 people, or actually he tells them to pick 2 people to put up for elimination. And so, of course, the men deliberate and they're trying to figure out who to put up. And so they end up putting up Aaron, and they put up, and Aaron, that was the one that was messing up the risotto really bad. And then they put up JP, and JP gets nominated. And so, he's talking to both of them, they're pleading their case. And then unfortunately, JP, is the first person to get eliminated from season 13. So I'm going to put it to you. Of course, when you watch this podcast, when you watch it on YouTube, you do get the benefit of putting in comments. So I would like you to comment if you think JP, should have been eliminated first. I'm going to say that I believe he should have, because he really wasn't doing well at all, and it didn't look like he would have improved from the status he was. But that's my opinion. But I'd like you to chime in. And I think it's a good point to talk about iTunes. iTunes is something that we have a heavy presence on. Through iTunes, we are able to be in over 100 countries, which is amazing here at AfterBuzz TV. And when you go to iTunes, you can download this podcast for free, which is also amazing. And what I'd like you to do, and what we'd all like you to do, is not just this show, but all shows, but this show in particular is what we're talking about right now. We need 5 stars. 5 stars is a great rating. It's the best rating you can get. And I think that, this show deserves it because it's pretty awesome. Yeah. So anyway, and like I said, this is Hell's Kitchen. It's going to be amazing all season. Hell's Kitchen is always on fire. And the good thing about it is we always tend to have guests that come in, those that are local to the LA area, to come in and talk with us. And then we also have guests that'll be calling in, some of the eliminated contestants. So stay tuned for that in the upcoming podcast that we do here at AfterBuzz TV. So we're going to move on into the second hour, in the sense, because it was a 2-hour special, and I love when they give you 2 hours up front, because it's just like, yeah, give it all to me, because it's over, and it's like, oh, I got another hour, so it's cool. So it goes into the next hour, and of course, throughout each season, there's always going to be some crazy wake-up call that Gordon Ramsay is going to have them do. I've seen where they've had motorbikes in there, freaking going up and down the hallway. They've had, drill sergeant come through there and like yelling at everybody to wake them up. So this particular time was really interesting because they had lifeguards, which I thought was funny. They had lifeguards run in, crazy early in the morning, and then basically start blowing the whistle and, to wake everybody up. So everybody gets woken up and they come outside and to the front of Hell's Kitchen, and lo and behold, overnight, they created, they put out a bunch of sand and created sand sculptures. Amazing. Like all these crazy looking sand sculptures, sand castles. There was like sharks and dolphins all over the place. And it was really cool. It looked like it was a beach. And so Gordon Ramsay basically says that, this is their challenge. This is their challenge coming up. And so what he does is he takes out of the sand, he beats up one of the sand castles, and out of the sand, he pulls out this crazy looking thing. And I knew what it was. I've never had it before, but I've seen enough of Hell's Kitchen and enough cookie shows to know what it was. It was Geoduck. And he's asking one of the guys what it is. He has no idea. But it's Geoduck. And Geoduck is a clam, but it just looks really, really crazy. So what happens is he pulls it out. So the challenge then becomes that they have to take and dig Geoduck out of all these castles. Like Geoduck is buried everywhere. I see you, JT, shaking your head. Do you know what Geoduck is?
No, but somebody offered me some gooey duck. I don't think I would take it.
Dude, I'm telling you, you need to go, JT, you need to go and like Google it, because it looks really foul. Like no one would like eat it like in its state. Like once it's transformed, it's amazing. But it looked crazy. Like it looked really bad. So anyway, so they're required to take the Geoduck and pull it out of the sand. And so they can go 2 by 2, so 2 people at a time from the blue team, 2 people at a time from the red team can go, and they each get one. Once they get one, they drop it off, and then the next person comes. So it's like a relay. And so they're running, and they give them a time, time limit to do it in. And so they're running, and they're trying to dig, and they got to break down all the sand castles. And one of the girls is saying that, it's like the sand is hard, so it's almost like hitting rocks. But she's like beating it up like a boxing. It was kind of hilarious. So when all is said and done, they count up, each person's Geoduck count, and the red team has 10 and the blue team has 12. So the blue team wins. So, yay, they're very happy because they really needed that win because, they had lost, twice now. They lost the first challenge and then they lost the service. So they were really excited, and Gordon Ramsay kind of tricks me. He's like, you want to know what you won? And they're like, yeah. And he's like, nothing. And he's like, oh, because basically it's only the first part of the challenge. So the next challenge or next part of the challenge is he takes them back into the kitchen after they've all cleaned up and everything. And what they have to do is they have to recreate a dish that Gordon Ramsay makes with the Geoduck, and it's a Geoduck sashimi. So he basically, of course, as he does in great Gordon Ramsay fashion, he shows him how to do it, but makes it look effortless. So he takes the gooey duck and he slices it really, really thin, and then it puts it on this, really pretty plate, and then puts these vegetables on there and this little sauce, and it's like, boom. So, but the challenge is, which is an interesting challenge, that they have to all recreate that dish, and they have to make 15 total plates. But all of the plates cannot measure more than 200 grams. And it's not like you can make one that's 300 grams and then be cool. It has to be 200 grams. So it can only be 1 gram off. So it can be 199 or it could be 201, but that's the only way it's going to work. So what ends up happening is the teams then have to go and they have to take, and you can only use the gooey duck that you got out. So of course the women only had 10, whereas the men had 12 to work with. So they were at a disadvantage because they had less to work with. So if they ended up messing up and not doing it right, or he rejected it, then they could essentially run out and lose that way. So he sends them on their way. Everybody's frantically, they're kind of teaming up and cutting and slicing the gooey duck and trying to recreate the dish. And what'll happen is they'll bring it up. Now, if it ends up being under the 200 grams, like under 199, then they have to go back and do it again. If it being over, the same thing. So the men start going crazy. They start doing really well. They start putting them up. The plates are coming, the next one, and they ring the bell, and the next one, and they ring the bell, and the women are just going really, really, really slow. And so it seems like the men have this huge, huge lead. And all of a sudden, the men start, going too fast, and then a lot of their stuff starts getting rejected. So then the women, that slow and steady wins the race. They start slowly putting it up there, but it's really good. So they keep going and going, and now they were down like 5. They end up, now they're down 4. Now they're down 2. Now it's neck and neck. So it gets down to like 14 and 14. It's 14 and 14, and it's amazing how a lot of these challenges come down to like the last minute or the last second. It's cool. And I remember talking to one of the contestants last season, and I asked them, I said, is it editing when it's really close, or do they like trying to do that? And they actually said that no, it's actually like that in a lot of cases. It ends up being just really, really close. So in this case, it was tied at 14. Tied at 14, and the men just had to put one up. It was actually 15 and 13. So, 14 and 13. So the men just had to put one and win. Well, the women put one up, then they tie it up. So now the men still can just put one up and be done with it. They put one up. What happens? It gets rejected. It's too much on there, I believe. So ends up going back. So then the women end up, putting one up, and lo and behold, they win. So they won the challenge. Dun, 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 dun. Men lose, blue team. And they're, of course, devastated because, it was so close. They really just had to put one more up and they would have been good. So, again, in the true fashion, the women get a prize. And so the red team gets to go on a yacht. Never been on a yacht. I would like to go. So maybe I need to go on Hell's Kitchen so I can go on a yacht. I don't know. Anyway, they get to go on a yacht. So they're excited. What do the men get to do? Well, of course, there's always the challenge that happens. So, of course, they have to prep for the next service. But there's an interesting twist is that they also get this amazing lunch. And by amazing, I mean nasty. They end up having to eat boiled salt cod. JTE, that salt cod, it looks like, have you ever seen oatmeal?
Yeah, I've seen oatmeal.
Like without any stuff. Like, yeah, I've seen oatmeal. It was like oatmeal with like no seasoning. That's what the cod looked like. The fish looked like oatmeal.
It didn't look solid.
No, it looked, yeah.
If I can't cut my food with a knife, I usually don't like it.
Right. It was really, really nasty. It looked really nasty. And they were saying that it was smelling foul and all this kind of stuff. So there's this guy named Sterling, and I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to get to my favorites in a minute, but I'm going to just shed the light. Sterling is my boy. Sterling is hilarious. Like, he is just a character. And of course, when they cast this show, you get a lot of diverse personalities, people, of all what's, because they, that's how drama ensues. You have conflicting personalities. If everybody was getting along, then it wouldn't be Hell's Kitchen. It'd be Heaven's Kitchen. But this guy, he's just out there. And so he's actually eating it and he's loving it. Like, not really, but he's just showing everybody that he can eat it. And he starts getting bad on one of the guys named Bryant, and Bryant's like looking at him like, why are you eating it? And he's like, cause I'm eating it cause it's good, and I'm showing how a man, how manly I am and all this kind of stuff. And Bryant's kind of fed up with it. He thinks he's doing too much. Sterling starts dancing, and then they basically get into it and they start arguing. And one of the guys says that Bryant's nickname is Volcano because he just blows up. And so he was just getting mad. He was getting upset. Sterling didn't care. Sterling was like, I'm here. It's, I got to eat this cod. I'm gonna eat it, and I'm gonna go on with the rest of my day. And it's interesting because the next day, they make up. Sterling goes to him and he's like, look, I'm sorry. Brian says, all right, I accept your apology, and they like hug it out, and then it's all good. So it's time for the second service to begin. And so we have Janae. Janae starts off, this is on the red team. It's risotto time. Of course, risotto is usually a staple in the appetizers. Janae messes up the risotto, just all bad. Bryant, who was the volcano guy, he sends up good risotto, and Chef Ramsay praises him, so he's all excited. Janae sends up a second risotto. It's all bad again. Now, you get like a chance. Like you do it bad, okay, you get a chance. Okay, now you got to do it better. Like, don't send it up twice bad. Janae sends it up bad again. So not only that, she tries a third time, ladies and gentlemen, and a third time the risotto is all messed up. So basically, Chef Ramsay calls the entire team, all of the red team, back into the back. And basically says, look, okay, you guys got to get this right. You have to get this right. You guys got to figure out what to do. You guys are all failing, because it wasn't just Janae. It was like the other team started sending up bad stuff. It was kind of like happening, like they were kind of declining. And so they basically send it out. He tells them to figure it out. So he leaves. They like, okay, look, let's get it together, ladies. You do this, you get this station, you do this. And they kind of work it out. So they bust out, outside the storage room, and they get out there and they start, going ham, and they start doing their dishes and getting it right. And, Chef Ramsay now happy. Now we go to the blue team. The blue team starts messing up. It's like, come on, guys, really? So blue team starts messing up, and it's funny because my boy Sterling, I love this dude. I hope he lasts a long time, because I can't wait to talk to him. Like, Sterling, if you're watching this, we got to have a conversation because you're hilarious. Chef Ramsay starts getting mad, and he starts, when Chef Ramsay gets mad, of course he yells tons and tons of obscenities. I can't get my words right today. He yells a ton. Let me get some water. Hold on one second. All right, now we're good. He starts yelling obscenities, and he starts banging stuff. He's always like, pushing the food and making the food fly everywhere. And so my boy Sterling, he's like banging the table too. And it's not like he's mimicking him or mocking him. He's just mad too. And it's just funny like how he does it, because Chef Ramsay's like, oh, and then Sterling's like, oh, it's hilarious. It's my boy Sterling he's funny. So the red team, they were just doing well. I just mentioned that. All of a sudden they started to decline again, and then they get kicked out. Now you think like, okay, well, maybe the blue team is gonna, bounce back, and they're gonna finish service just like, the red team did the previous service. No, they get kicked out too. Both teams get kicked out. So of course that means no team wins. So then they have to deliberate. Both teams have to deliberate and send up two people. So the red team decides, of course, Janae, because she was the one that sent up like 3 bad risottos. So she needed to go. She needed to be sent up. And then there's a girl by the name of Deneen, who is also someone I really, really like. She's a culinary student. She's young. She's kind of cute too. But I like her. I like her spirit. She seems really feisty. And I like when, they got feisty people in the kitchen because they don't play. And she seems like that type of person. The blue team, they send up my boy Sterling. I'm like, no, don't send up Sterling. But Sterling actually, and that's how cool he is, he actually sent himself. He's like, I volunteer. I didn't do good, so I'm going to send myself up. And I think that shows good character. So he sent himself up. And then this other guy named Fernando got voted in, who's supposed to be, executive chef or whatever, but he did really bad. So, Chef Ramsay asked them all, why they think she should stay, the whole spiel. They give their spiel, and Janae is the one that gets eliminated. So I definitely agree with that elimination also. So far 2 for 2 in my book as far as like who needed to go. I just didn't want Sterling to go because I was like, Sterling need to go. And I didn't want Deneen to go either because I like her. So that goes into my favorites. And I always like to do this at the beginning of the season. So, and I've kind of mentioned it, so kind of let the cat out the bag. But on the blue team, definitely Sterling. He's just crazy. He's crazy, but he's funny. He's just a character. He's a character, and I think he's gonna make the show like as it goes forward. I think it's gonna make it interesting. And then on the red team, Deneen, like I said, she's just a fireball. Like I said, I think she has a lot to prove because of her age, and also because she's a student, you know, and so she wants to prove that she, you know, can hang with everybody else. So that being said, let's get into predictions. Let's do that. Let's do that right now.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
All right, so predictions. So this is what I predict. So I think that in true fashion of the last couple of seasons that I've seen, even though they kind of had, you know, some missteps, they got thrown out. But I think the red team is definitely going to dominate this season again. I don't know why that's been a trend. I don't know if the women are just, you know, working better or more communicative than the men. I don't know. But I think they definitely will dominate again. And then just by looking at the first half of the 2-hour episode, I think that they showed that. And I think they're going to continue to do that because I don't know if it's the men just have these egos and it's just hard for them to work together. I don't know. But I think the red team will dominate again. And then my prediction also is that Sterling is going to get on everybody's nerves. He's just going to get on everybody's nerves. Everybody's going to start getting tired of his antics and everything he's got going on and all this stuff. So that's what I think. But I also think, I mean, there was even one part where I showed in the, you know, at the beginning, they show you kind of the whole season, like a snapshot. There was one part where it looked like maybe he was going to get eliminated and he hugs Gordon Ramsay. I just think this dude is amazing. It's funny. So those are my predictions for this particular going into next episode. We want to make sure that you watch us every single week because, as you know, those that are fans of Hell's Kitchen, it's always a blast. It's always drama. It's always craziness. It's always good food. The challenges are amazing. I think we have another good cast this season, and I'm just excited to get to know about these people. So that being said, I want to thank you for watching. My name is Lem Gonsalvez. I didn't say it at the beginning, but I'm saying it now. Lem Gonsalvez, and you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at The Poet Saint. And that's at The Poet Saint on Instagram, at The Poet Saint on Twitter. It's amazing. And make sure you comment. You know, we need those 5 stars rating. And like I said, hopefully I'll maybe have somebody with me next week. You don't know. Or I might be by myself again holding it down. That's how we roll. But all in all, I'm going to be here and you're going to be here. Stay tuned. We'll see you next week.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV Network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.